Hi. The kit designer for Jinx is Riot August, as in August Browning. And as such, if you follow them on Instagram, which their username is Riot August all put together, and you should go follow them because they put stories like this up on there. Here's an interesting story about how Jinx's grenades, the flame chompers, were originally supposed to work.
Making League back in 2012 came with a number of unique challenges. When I was working on Jinx, her grenades originally could light brush on fire, but we had a problem. You see, back then, there was no way to tell where brush was. Like, if you got a point on the map, you couldn't tell if that point was in a brush. So, I needed to get creative. What you could tell is if someone was standing in brush. So, naturally, I just made an invisible grid of Teemos that spanned the entire map. Then, when Jinx threw her grenades, I would check for any nearby Teemos. And if the nearby Teemo was in the brush, I'd light that Teemo on fire. And then, I would check for Teemos next to him, and if those Teemos were in the brush, I would light them on fire as well. And then, of course, if there's any champions nearby, they'd also get lit on fire. It was a pretty cool spell. But we ended up not shipping it. Not because of the ridiculous network of Teemos, although that probably would have caused some performance issues, but because we also, back then, did not have a way to make flaming brush look good. And we moved on to the grenades you see on Jinx today. Making League.
So yeah, essentially it was interesting because the grenades were going to light brush on fire, which when you think about Jinx, as someone that has played Jinx for now like 10 plus years, it's cool to hear this story because one of the things I've thought about is the immobility of certain champions, right? Like that's a weakness that's built into certain champions because maybe they have long range or because they're super powerful, they're glass cannons, etc. It's one of the levers that get kind of pulled, if you will. At least in my opinion as a player, this isn't like factual. I'm not a champion designer myself, but just looking at Jinx, for example, like that is one of the things she is, right? She's one of the more slower AD carries because she also is one of the AD carries once Fishbone scales, especially when you max Q, that has the longest range. So it makes sense, right? It's like, oh yeah, I'm not going to be able to run away from this like maybe like a Camille is, who's going to like grapple over the wall and just leave me behind. Thanks. I specifically remember a game, as a matter of fact, where my teammates were getting mad at me because everybody but me had a dash or a blink. And so they would all hard engage on the enemy team and wonder why I was way in the back, getting jumped by like the enemy like Leona and Sion who would just go around them. It was one of those weird games where everybody's like, just kill the other AD carry and don't care about it. Their Leona and Sion would not peel and just go around my team to kill me, and my entire other 4 members of my team would just dash forward and go kill the carries on the enemy team. Now it would basically be like a 2-for-4 situation where I would go down and maybe one of them would go down, but they took down all the carries and the junglers, so you know there was only the tanks left. We ended up winning, but it was one of those, my team was just like, what are you doing? Why do you have bad positioning and stuff like that? I'm like, I'm Jinx, guys. I can't dash until I get excited. And I'm not getting excited. It's not a button I can just press and activate and just get excited out the gates. I gotta get excited by killing or destroying stuff, or I get Shimmer. Shimmer's a thing now. I bring this up just to say, so like that is a thing, right? Where it's like that's, and you have other champions that are examples of this. Artillery mages tend to be like this too. Let's like Xerath, Ziggs. And so it was interesting because I was thinking about the laning phase specifically, and how if you could light brush on fire, I was thinking about that for my own reasons, don't get me wrong. I did not steal this idea from August, I promise, and this was August's idea first because he was thinking about this back in like 2012. Because Jinx, remember, came out in 2013. Jinx has been around for 11 years once we hit October. That could be an interesting way depending on how that mechanic works, and I wouldn't be surprised if we see that mechanic in the future, especially from an August champion, in a way to kind of ward a brush, or at least defend a little bit, right? Maybe you could still walk through a brush that's on fire, but like Ignite, you take damage. So if you're getting ganked by a jungler who's going through the brush anyways, they've also taken some damage, you know what I mean? And it's a way to kind of be like, oh hey, okay, we can light this brush on fire over here specifically for a short amount of time, or for like a duration, or maybe it's the passive, it just lights the brush on fire for like a good 60 seconds even, and it's like, hey, maybe it does make it impassable, right? So if a jungler wants to do it, most junglers can go over walls anyway, so they'll find another way, but it's like, it's a way to kind of like defend yourself, especially with the way they restructured bot lane. I don't know, that could be something interesting, and I wouldn't be surprised to see it in the future, because conclusion of this video and this story too is like Fiora, actually, my bad, Fiora. So when Fiora was getting their rework, the ult we see on Mordekaiser now, and Mordekaiser's rework, was in testing phase going to be used on Fiora. She was going to like, basically, I'm going to oversimplify this, but like hands would basically take Fiora and whoever she targeted to a different part of the map into an arena, and they'd fight it out, and the winner would come out with buffs. or as Skarzard once described it as, they'd be like returning from Goku from Namek, like powerful with like the buffs and spells from winning the duel. But in playtesting, the problem was the Fiora would just keep targeting like the enemy Janna or Nami or something, like the support basically, who really can't 1v1, and so it's like a free buffs basically, and they didn't like that. So when we see it with Mordekaiser now, it's a bit more fair and it feels a bit more different, because Mordekaiser's like a juggernaut, he doesn't have high mobility like Fiora does, etc. So don't be surprised when August brings this up. This might have not made it on Jinx, but if we ever see this idea in the future, it would be actually pretty cool. And the reason I was thinking about it myself even is like, I'll just spoil it. I've thought about designing a kit just for fun once. It wasn't obviously a Jinx kit. Like, oh, if I was reworking Jinx, this is what I do. I think Jinx is fine, personally. Obviously, I have a bias. It's my job to have a bias. This channel's called ggGetJinxed. There was an idea I had once where I thought of a champion with a flamethrower for main cannon. And it worked different from Rumble's, because Rumble's was magic damage, so the character I was thinking of was like physical damage. And that was one of the ideas I thought about, actually, was like lighting brushes on fire, interacting with the map that way. And so it'll be interesting to see August do it, because obviously he's actually good at champion design. He's made things like Echo and Jhin and Vi and Jinx and such. I even think Gnar is pretty decent, even though I think August still thinks Gnar is the worst champion he's designed, which is wild to me. I'm gonna end the video though, but yeah, make sure to go follow August on Instagram, Riot August. He has a bunch of other, so there's a Vi one, for example. We could watch that one for a different Vi video if we ever do Vi videos. Like, you know, April Fool's is coming up. Maybe we'll do Vi stuff for April Fool's, because Vi is pretty cool too. But that's it. Make sure though, it's all run together, by the way. Riot August, one word, on Instagram. You can usually find him under that variation of names on other platforms too, like Twitter, like I'm never calling it X. TikTok, stuff like that too, streams, etc. Make sure to show up to those and support the guy if you like his work. But thank you so much for watching this video. I don't know which video will be next, because life can have a lot of kinks. So until this time, take care. GG get jinxed. Thank you for watching, and enjoy pizza responsibly.